Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to make this really fun, unique window card. And I'll give you a few tips and tricks for some different things that you can do with this window card. So let's go ahead and get started. So for paper, I'm using the Watercolor Wishes collection pack. This is from Fawn. And this is a double-sided pattern paper. So you can see you get the dots on one side and then that really pretty variegated pattern on the other side. And this is a 12 by 12 paper pack. And again, you can see that double-sided paper. We're going to be using this one today. And we'll also be using this stripe down at the bottom. It comes on each of these pieces of paper, the coordinating stripe. So we're going to use that as well. For dies, I've got the Art Impressions A2 rectangle double stitch dies, and I'm going to grab that largest one. And I'm just trying to pick the area here that I like the best. These dots are in different shades of pinks, and so I'm going to just go and grab that section that I want. I'll tape that down with a little bit of purple tape. And then I'm just using my Tim Holtz scissors just to cut that little section out. And then we can go ahead and run this through the die cutting machine. I'm using the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And if you place that on a little bit of an angle, it'll run through your machine really easily. Now I've got the square double stitch dies from Art Impressions. I'll grab that third smallest one there. And I'm going to place this up towards the top of this pattern paper. And I'll tape that down with some purple tape. And then I'm going to use my T-square ruler just to make sure this is nice and straight. And I do want an equal distance at the top and the two sides, so I'll check that as well. So just making sure it's nice and straight. So let's run that through the die cutting machine. Now we can go ahead and create our card base. So I've got a piece of cardstock. This is the 100-pound Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. This measures 8.5 by 5.5, and I'm going to score that at 4 1/4. And that'll give us a standard A2 size card, which measures 4 1/4 by 5.5. So I'm going to lay that pattern paper right over the top, and I'm not going to glue anything together here. I just want to mark those 4 corners of that square. So I want to make sure I have that pattern paper lined up perfectly, and then I'll mark those 4 little dots, those 4 corners. Now I've got a cutting blade, and I've got my Tim Holtz acrylic ruler, and that has a metal edge on one side. So you do want that metal edge up against your cutting blade. And we'll cut this from corner to corner. So we'll make an X shape. And when I'm cutting with the blade, I like to cut through kind of lightly at first, and then I come back through a second time. This helps prevent any kind of tearing or any raw edges. You get a nice clean cut. So you'll see I just go lightly at first, and then I come back over for a second cut. And depending on how thick your paper is, you can do that 2 or 3 times if you need to. So now let's go ahead and connect these dots to create that square shape. And I'm just going to use my stylus tool to do that. And I will list and link all the products I'm using today down below and also on my blog. So now that we have that done, we can go ahead and erase those pencil marks. And now we can attach this front panel to our card. So I'm going back to that Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and I'll apply plenty of adhesive all around the back. You could use a double stick tape here as well. Just want to make sure it's glued down really well. And now you'll see that that square shape in the middle, we can fold those little flaps back on themselves. So what I'm going to do is just reach in, and we already scored there. So those lines are defined already. So we're just going to fold them back and press that out with the bone folder. Now at this point, if you had used a double-sided pattern paper here, you could just have that second color showing through. My double-sided pattern paper was fairly lightweight, so we're going to add that effect. So I'm going back to that same square die that we used earlier, and I'll go ahead and die cut this piece. Now I could have used the insert that popped out. I just thought it was a little bit light. So I'm grabbing a darker section of that paper and I'm going to die cut that square. And now we'll have that nice stitch border. There you can see the other one. I thought it was a little bit light, so I decided to die cut that again in this darker paper. And then we'll cut from corner to corner here. We're going to create 4 little triangles. The best way I know how to do that once you cut it is just to tape this temporarily back together and then cut corner to corner again. I just find that the easiest way. I'm sure there's probably other ways of doing that, but so that I don't have to measure anything, I just do it like this. So that'll give me the 4 little corners to place on those flaps. And it'll also give me that nice stitch border, which will coordinate well with the pattern paper that's already there. So now I'm going to glue each of these on these flaps. And again, you could just have a double-sided paper here so that when you cut that square opening and you fold those tabs back, you would get that second color of paper. If you're going to do it that way, using a heavier weight double-sided paper is the way to go. And there are some heavyweight double-sided papers out there, so you might want to think about that. So here I'm just going to create that effect by gluing these little triangles in place. And you could certainly just glue 2 of the colored triangles or make each of the triangles a different color. I'm just pressing that out with my bone folder just to make sure that everything's nice and secure. And now you can see how cute that is. So you can just leave it just like that. We're going to go ahead now and go back to that pretty pink paper and die cut another panel for the inside of our card. And that's from that same rectangle A2 double stitch die set. We're going to grab that second largest one this time. So as you look through the card now, you'll see that pretty pink paper. So I'm going to set that aside for now and go to my images. We're using the Art Impressions Feline Set. I'm going to be using that little cat and the cake and that sentiment right there as well. And this has a lot of cute little kitty cat images here. And it also comes with the coordinating dies. I've got my We Are Memory Keepers Mini Precision Press. This is just a little stamp positioner. I'm going to put a little bit of tape down here just to hold that paper in place. And we'll go ahead and put our image down. And you just press down to pick up that image. It's got these little feet on it. So we can easily ink this up using the Versafine Onyx black ink. This is a permanent black ink. And then you just want to follow those pegs, place them right back into position, and then push down, and that will stamp your image. So if you do have to stamp it a second or third time, it's really easy just to line that right back up. So just ink up your stamp again, position it back over those little pegs, and stamp again. To do the coloring, I'm using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. And I'm starting off with light brown and tea rose. And I'll be listing all the colors we're using in that upper left-hand corner as we go along. And to do my blending, I'm using the Zig blender pen. But you could certainly use a water brush here if you prefer that. So what I'm going to do is meet you on the other side of the coloring. I'll put on some music for you, and I'll see you in a few minutes. So now that that coloring is all done, let's take a closer look at that. And isn't this guy just so mischievous? I love him. So I'm going to go ahead and place the die right over top, tape that down with some purple tape, and we'll run that through the die cutting machine. I'm placing a bit of scrap paper over that just to make sure that since all my coloring is done, I don't want to transfer anything onto that by accident. So I've got my double-sided Tombow permanent tape, and in order to position this right behind the window, I'm placing it up against the front window there. I've got some adhesive on the back, and then I'll just close the card once I have that positioning exactly where I want it. And when I open that up, it'll be stuck right in place. I've got my white gel pen, and I'll add some highlights here and there. And this just makes everything pop out a little bit more, just adds a bit more interest. Once that's all set, I'm grabbing the Wink of Stella glitter pen. This is just a clear glitter. I'm going to go over all those candles just to give them a little bit of sparkle. And then for a little bit more interest, I'm using the Buttons Galore and More Sparkletz. And again, I'll list all these products down below, but there's some really cute little stars in here, and then those little pink pearls. So I'm going to place those stars all around the background on the inside of the card, and I'm going to glue those down. I'm using my Marvy jewel picker to pick those up, and I know it's hard to see right now, but I will give you an up-close look at these in a second. Again, just adding a little bit more interest here, and hopefully you can see those a little bit better. And now for the front of the card, I'm placing a little dab of glue on each of those, the tips of the triangles, and I'll just glue those down. But what I did want to tell you here is there are lots of other things you can do at this point. You could curl those tabs back, so just kind of roll them back, place some foam tape underneath there to give those some dimension, and then roll those back. And another interesting thing to do, instead of gluing these little pearls down, you could place some brads in there. Now if you're going to do that, you do have to remember that the inside of the card, the back of the brads will show. But that does look kind of interesting as well. So you've got some options for how you want to glue those little flaps into place. I'm going back to my mini precision press stamp positioner. Again, I've still got a little tape left over there on that platform, so I'm just going to tack this card in place. I just wanted to show you that even with these little mini positioners, you can still stamp the inside of your card. I'm just opening up the card, I'm inking up my sentiment, and I'm going to stamp that down below that window. You want to make sure it doesn't show through that window there. And that little sentiment says, "Oh, were you going to eat this?" I love that. It's so cute. So now, once I've got that stamped, I can go ahead and stamp it a second time. I just, again, want to line up those pegs. I re-inked it and press that down into place, and I get a perfectly crisp second stamping. I'm going back to that striped pattern that we had at the bottom of that double-sided paper, and I'm going to just select one of those areas of it. It is different shades of pinks at the bottom, and so I'm just kind of selecting that pink shade that I wanted. And then I'm going to use that large rectangle die again and die cut that. That will just give me that stitch border on each side of this strip of paper. Now you certainly don't have to do that. I just wanted it to match up with the stitching that we already have on the front card panel. I'll just glue that down with some Nouveau Deluxe adhesive. And now we can create the sentiment for the front of the card, which will just say happy birthday. I'm going to the Art Impressions, that little happy birthday there on that banner, and I'm going to the Art Impressions Birthday Buggy Set. And this has so many cute little images. It has that little Volkswagen bug. That's a really fun set. So let's stamp the happy birthday. And then this does have the coordinating die, so I'm going to grab that, tape it down with some purple tape, and run that through the Sizzix Sidekick machine. So we can just add some foam mounting tape and pop that up a little bit on the front of the card. So again, keep in mind those flaps on the front of the card there can be from double-sided pattern paper. We can roll those back a little bit for some dimension or put some foam tape under there, and add a brad if you want to add a little bit more interest that way. So you've got a lot of options for that. Let me give you a closer look at the card. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.